Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here again, sorting through, well, heaps of information to pull out the really essential stuff for you.
That's the goal.
So today we're diving into an idea that, honestly, if you really get it, it could totally shift how you think about progress. Picture this. A jumbo jet leaving LAX.
Okay.
If its heading is off by just, say, 3.5 degrees right at takeoff, tiny, right? It won't just land a bit off course.
No, not at all.
It'll end up somewhere completely different, maybe thousands of miles away, a whole different city, maybe even a different country. That tiny, tiny initial shift, huge difference down the line.
It's exactly those small adjustments, the ones you barely notice, that actually hold immense power. And that's what we're digging into today, how tiny, consistent changes can really transform your life.
Yeah, and we're pulling from a really, really insightful source here, one that just unpacks the science behind habits, how we form them, how behavior changes. So our mission today, well, it's really about giving you a shortcut to understanding how habits really work.
Yeah, and we'll uncover some surprising facts, practical strategies, too, things you can actually use right away for building good habits and maybe, getting rid of the bad ones.
We're talking changes so small they're atomic.
Exactly. Atomic. That's the word. And when we say atomic, we mean it literally, like an extremely small piece, the kind of irreducible unit of a bigger system.
Sets the stage perfectly. Tiny things adding up to something big.
Precisely. And how these minute habits, these atomic habits, can build into something incredibly powerful over time.
Okay, so to really get a feel for this power, let's start with a story. It's pretty compelling. Our source talks about this young guy, sophomore in high school, and his life just takes this unbelievable turn.
Right. He gets hit smack in the face with a baseball bat, slipped out of the classmate's hands during practice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the impact, it was devastating. Crushed nose, multiple skull fractures, shattered eye sockets. He ended up in a coma.
Just unimaginable, especially for someone with a dream like his.
Absolutely. He wanted to play pro baseball. His dad played in the minor leagues, so it was this big family thing, this aspiration.
And then this happens. So after months of rehab, getting back must have been tough.
Tough is an understatement. His return to the field was rocky, and then he actually got cut from the varsity team.
Ouch. After everything he'd been through.
Yeah, a really humiliating blow, especially given how hard he'd worked just to get back. He talks about just sitting in his car, crying, searching for a song on the radio to feel better.
So how do you possibly bounce back from that? From the injury,
Yeah.
the setback, the humiliation?
Well, this is where it gets incredible. He staged this unbelievable comeback, ended up becoming the top male athlete at Denison University.
No way.
Yes. And got named to the ESPN Academic All-America team. That's an honor for only 33 players in the whole country.
That's amazing.
By the time he graduated, he was listed in 8 school record categories, even got the university's highest academic honor, the President's Medal.
From being cut from the team to that.
And what's really insightful, I think, is how that whole journey, that whole struggle and comeback led him to become this expert on habits.
Okay. It wasn't just talent then.
Not just talent, no. He built this huge online following, created a really successful training platform, the Habits Academy. It's graduated over 10,000 leaders, managers, coaches.
Teachers. Okay, so here's the connection for you listening. His story, it isn't just about, his unique experience. It's about how he did it.
Exactly. He relied on small habits, tiny atomic habits. That's how he rebounded from the injury, got stronger, performed at that elite level, became a writer, built a successful business.
So this deep dive, it's really offering a kind of step-by-step plan for your potential.
Yeah.
Just like you found his.
Precisely. And to really hammer home this power of atomic changes, let's look at another example. Let's jump across the pond to the British cycling team.
Ah, yes. I've heard about this. They weren't always winners, right?
Far from it. For almost 100 years, British professional cycling was just mediocre, really mediocre.
How mediocre are we talking?
Well, between 1908 and basically the early 2000s, British riders won only one single Olympic gold medal. And in 110 years, 0 Tour de France wins.
0. Wow.
Yeah. Their performance was so poor that at one point, a top bike manufacturer actually refused to sell them bikes. They were afraid it would hurt their brand image.
That's pretty bad. So enter Dave Brailsford, the performance director. What did he do? What was the magic bullet?
No magic bullet. His strategy was actually deceptively simple, but profound. He called it the aggregation of marginal gains.
Aggregation of marginal gains. Okay, break that down.
It's basically the philosophy of finding a tiny 1% improvement in absolutely everything you do.
Everything? Like, what does everything even cover in cycling? Better bikes, I assume.
Oh, much more than that. Yes, bikes, but also they redesigned bike seats for better comfort, better power. They tested different tires for better grip, used specific massage gels for faster recovery.
Okay, that makes sense.
But they went further. Optimized nutritional supplements. They even brought in surgeons to teach the athletes the best way to wash their hands to avoid illness.
Hand washing.
Seriously.
Seriously. And they looked at the types of pillows and mattresses the athletes used to get the best possible sleep. They even painted the inside of the team truck white
Why white?
so they could spot tiny bits of dust easier. Dust that might get into the finely tuned bike mechanics and degrade performance just that little bit.
That is meticulous, almost obsessive.
You could say that, but look at the results.
Okay, lay it on me. What happened?
In the 10 years after Brailsford took over, implementing this 1% strategy, British cycling won 178 world championships,
Oh,
66 Olympic and Paralympic gold medals, and 5 Tour de France victories.
5. From 0 to 110 years. That's just unbelievable.
It really shows the power of compounding, doesn't it?
Yeah, the math is kind of staggering when you think about it.
It is. If you get just 1% better each day for a year, you end up, 37 times better?
37. But the flip side is true, too. If you get 1% worse each day, you decline down to almost 0.
It really drives home that success isn't usually about these huge overnight transformations we imagine.
No, it's the product of your daily habits,
Yeah.
what you do consistently.
Which means, okay, this is important, your current trajectory, like the direction you're heading, matters way more than your current results.
Exactly. Your outcomes are just lagging measures of the habits that got you there.
Right. Like your net worth. That's a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight. Lagging measure of your eating habits.
Your knowledge, lagging measure of your learning habits, it really boils down to you get what you repeat.
Okay, but this idea of consistent effort, it often feels like you're putting in the work, but nothing's happening. That can be super frustrating.
Oh, absolutely. That leads us to this concept called the plateau of latent potential. It explains why progress often feels so delayed.
The plateau of latent potential. Okay, unpack that. Why isn't progress just steady, linear?
Well, we often expect it to be linear, don't we? You start a new habit, you expect to see results right away, day after day.
Yeah, exactly. Put in work, get results. Simple.
But reality is usually different. You often find yourself in what the source calls the valley of disappointment. You're doing the thing, you're putting in the effort, but for days, weeks, maybe even months, nothing seems to change.
Ugh, yes. That's where most people give up, I bet.
Probably. It's like, imagine an ice cube in a cold room. Let's say the room starts at 25 degrees.
Okay, freezing.
Right. Then you slowly heat the room, 26, 27, 28 degrees. But the ice cube, it's still just sitting there. An ice cube, no visible change.
Still frozen solid, all that energy going in, seemingly for nothing.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
then you hit 32 degrees, and suddenly,
Yeah.
boom, all that stored work, all that energy you put in it manifests, the ice cube starts to melt. That's the breakthrough moment.
Ah, I get it.
Yeah.
So the work wasn't wasted before, it was just building up,
Yeah.
storing potential.
Precisely. Those overnight successes people talk about, they're usually just the visible result, the melting ice cube, after weeks or months or even years of invisible work on that plateau of latent potential.
It's like geological pressure building up.
Yeah.
You don't see it until the earthquake, but the force was there all along.
That's a great analogy. Your work is being stored. It just hasn't crossed the threshold yet.
Okay, this makes so much sense. Now, let's shift gears a bit. Let's challenge something we all kind of take for granted. Setting goals.
Right. The conventional wisdom is set big goals. That's how you achieve things.
Yeah, SMART goals, BHAs, all that stuff.
But our source actually argues that focusing only on goals might be holding you back.
Holding you back. How?
Well, there are a few problems with a goals-first mindset. First, winners and losers often have the exact same goals.
That's true. Every team wants to win the championship. Every Olympian wants gold.
Exactly. So the goal itself can't be the thing that differentiates the winners.
Uh-huh.
Something else must be going on.
Yeah, what is?
Second, achieving a goal is often just a momentary change. Think about cleaning your room.
Okay, yeah.
You can muster the motivation, set the goal, clean the room, you achieve it, great. But if you don't change the underlying habits, the sloppy system that created the mess.
It's just going to get messy again in a week. Or maybe a day.
Exactly. You treated the symptom, the messy room, but not the cause, which is the system or lack thereof.
Right. And there's another point, too, isn't there? About happiness.
Yes. A relentless focus on goals can actually restrict your happiness.
Yeah.
You fall into this trap of thinking, once I achieve X, then I'll be happy.
Yeah, deferring satisfaction, always looking to the next milestone.
Right. And it sets up this kind of either-or dynamic. Either you hit the goal and you're a success, or you miss it and you're a failure. It puts your happiness entirely on this one outcome.
So if we shouldn't obsess over goals, what's the alternative?
Focus on systems instead.
Systems. Define that for us.
A system is simply the process that leads to the results. It's the underlying routine, the collection of habits.
Okay, give me some examples.
Sure. A coach's goal is to win the championship, right? But their system is how they recruit players, manage their assistants, run practices day in and day out.
Got it.
An entrepreneur might have a goal of building $1 million business, but their system is how they test product ideas, hire the right people, run marketing campaigns, handle customer service.
So the system is the how, the repeatable process.
Exactly. And what's really interesting here, if you adopt a systems-first mentality, you can learn to fall in love with the process rather than the product.
Ooh, I like that. Fall in love with the process.
Yeah, it shifts your focus. You can find satisfaction anytime your system is running, anytime you're executing your process, not just when you hit some arbitrary goal.
And a good system can lead to multiple good outcomes, not just the one specific goal you started with.
Precisely. It's about continuous refinement and execution.
Okay, systems over goals. But we can go even deeper, can't we?
We can. The deepest level of change, the most profound and lasting kind, according to our source, comes from focusing on identity.
Identity. Okay, how does that work?
Well, think about behavior change happening on 3 layers, like an onion.
Okay.
The outer layer is outcome change. This is about changing your results, losing weight, publishing a book, winning a game, what you get.
That's where most people focus. The goals.
Right. The middle layer is process change. This is about changing your habits and systems, implementing a new workout routine, decluttering your desk, developing a meditation practice, what you do.
The systems we just talked about.
Exactly. But the deepest layer, the core, is identity change. This is about changing your beliefs, your self-image, your worldview, who you believe you are.
Ah, okay. So the most effective way to change habits isn't just focusing on what you want, but on who you want to become.
Precisely. The goal isn't just to read a book, it's to become a reader.
Yeah.
The goal isn't just to run a marathon, it's to become a runner.
And every action you take, it's like a vote.
It's exactly like a vote. Every time you practice your Spanish, you cast a vote for being a person who speaks Spanish. Every time you choose the stairs, you cast a vote for being a healthy person.
So true behavior change is really identity change.
At its core, yes. Think about it. If you're really proud of some aspect of your identity, maybe how your hair looks, like the book mentions,
Okay.
you'll fight to maintain the habits associated with it, right? You'll use the right products, go to the salon. If you see yourself as disciplined, you're more likely to stick to your routines.
Your habits emerge from your self-image and then reinforce that image. It's a loop.
A powerful loop. Your identity shapes your habits, and your habits shape your identity.
Wow. Okay, that's a big shift in perspective. So now that we've covered identity, let's get into the mechanics. How do habits actually work in the brain?
Right, let's pull back and look at the science. It boils down to a 4-step loop. It's called the habit loop.
The habit loop. Okay, what are the steps?
Simple. Cue, craving, response, and reward.
Cue, craving, response, reward. Got it.
And understanding this loop is key because our brains are constantly trying to be efficient. They want to automate behaviors to save energy.
Right, they want to free up our conscious mind for more important stuff, new challenges.
Exactly. Habit formation reduces cognitive load. When you build good habits now, you essentially free up mental space to do more, think more, tackle bigger problems later. It's an investment.
Okay, let's break down that loop. Step 1, the cue.
The cue is the trigger. It's the bit of information that predicts a reward is coming. Our brains are constantly scanning the environment for these cues.
Like what?
Well, back in prehistoric times, cues signaled primary rewards, food, water, safety. Now we're also wired for cues predicting secondary rewards, money, status, praise, friendship, satisfaction, your phone buzzing, the smell of coffee, walking into a dark room. These are all cues.
Okay, so the cue triggers the next step, which is...
The craving. This is the motivation, the desire, the wanting part. It's not the habit itself, but the feeling behind the habit. You don't crave smoking a cigarette, you crave the feeling of relief it provides.
You don't crave turning on the TV, you crave the feeling of being entertained or relaxed.
Exactly. The craving is about the change in state the habit delivers.
Okay, cue, craving, then comes the response.
The response is the actual habit, the action you take, or even a thought pattern. Whether you act on the craving depends on a few things: how motivated you are, how much friction or effort is involved, and your actual ability to do it.
Right. If it's too hard, you probably won't do it, even if you crave the outcome.
Precisely. Which leads us to the final step, the reward.
The payoff.
The payoff. Rewards are the end goal. They do 2 crucial things. First, they satisfy the craving. Relief, contentment. Second, they teach your brain. They tell your brain, hey, this loop, this cue craving response sequence, it worked. Remember this for next time.
So the reward closes the loop and makes it more likely to repeat in the future.
Exactly. Cue, craving, response, reward. That cycle drives almost everything we do without thinking.
Now, connect this to brain chemistry. Dopamine plays a role here, right?
A huge role. And it's fascinating because for a long time, people thought dopamine was just about pleasure, the feeling you get from the reward.
Yeah, the pleasure chemical.
Right. But now we know it's much more about anticipation. Dopamine spikes when you expect a reward, often even more than when you actually get it.
So the wanting is sometimes stronger than the having.
Often, yes. Think about anticipating a vacation or Christmas morning as a kid. The buildup, the desire, that's heavily driven by dopamine anticipating the reward.
That makes sense. It explains why sometimes the planning is more fun than the trip itself.
It can be. And interestingly, your brain actually dedicates way more neural real estate to wanting rewards than to liking them. That desire, that craving is the engine. Without it, action just grinds to a halt.
Wow, okay, so understanding this loop cue, craving, response, reward, and the role of dopamine.
Yeah,
That's the foundation for actually changing our habits.
absolutely. And that brings us neatly to the 4 laws of behavior change, which are practical ways to hack this loop for building good habits and breaking bad ones.
All right, let's dive in. Law number 1.
Law number 1, make it obvious. This targets the cue.
Make the cue obvious. Why is that the first step?
Because so many of our habits are automatic, non-conscious. We often don't even realize what triggers them. The source mentions an old teacher friend who just instinctively asked coworkers if they had washed their hands after using the restroom.
Yeah. Or the lifeguard yelling, walk,
Yeah.
at kids running near a pool, even years later.
Exactly. The response is so ingrained, the cue doesn't even need conscious recognition anymore. So the first step to changing a habit is becoming aware of the cues that trigger your current ones.
Like Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
Beautifully put. So how do we make things obvious? How do we raise awareness and create better cues?
Well, one simple tool is just writing things down, the habit scorecard. Just list your daily habits, good, bad, neutral, to see what you're actually doing.
Good starting point. What else?
Then there's environment design. This is huge. Actively shaping your space to make the cues for good habits unavoidable.
Like putting your vitamins right next to the coffee maker if you want to remember them.
Exactly. Or keeping your guitar out in the living room, not hidden in a closet if you want to practice more. Put your running shoes by the door. Make the cue impossible to miss.
Be the architect of your life, not just the consumer of your environment.
I love that. And another powerful technique is habit stacking.
Ah, yes. This builds on habits you already have.
Right. You know the data row effect. How buying one new thing, like a new sofa, suddenly makes you want new lamps, new rug, new everything.
Yeah, it triggers the spiral.
So you apply that to habits. The formula is, after I current habit, I will new habit.
Simple and effective. So like after I finish my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute.
Or after I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes.
Yeah.
You link the new desired habit to an existing automatic one.
And the existing habit acts as the obvious cue for the new one. Clever.
It really taps into how context triggers habits. The Vietnam War heroin study is a stark example here.
Right, soldiers got addicted over there in that specific environment, but surprisingly few relapsed when they got back home to a completely different context.
It shows just how powerful the environment is as a cue, stronger than willpower sometimes, which reinforces that idea of one space, one use. Try not to mix contexts, like working from your bed.
Makes sense. Keep the cues clean. Okay, law number 2.
Law 2, make it attractive. This targets the craving.
Make it